All right, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to all. Thanks, Dr. Kennedy, for bringing me here, and I've been looking forward to this session for quite some time now. I deem it an honor to try and address a group of very light professionals like you all on this bright and glorious Friday morning. Fridays are always associated with fun. Coming from a corporate perspective, Fridays are definitely associated with a lot of fun and a day which is looked forward to and all that stuff. So I thought I'll try and spread that fun factor here and before all of you in my own special way, talking about a topic which is extremely close to my life and my heart, which is around out of the box, which I deem it a pleasure and honor that I have a responsibility to try and be that way day after day after day as a part of my job. I have a team of over 100 professionals in different parts of the world who also think, dream and live out of the box, live creativity, live innovative ideas, who have the freedom to try and transform their dreams into realities in a workplace. So that's the kind of perspective I come before you. Before even starting off the session, I would like to set some perspectives or conditions or expectations pretty nicely so that you all know what's in store for all of you, and I know what's in store for me in the next 50 odd minutes. We're trying to make it crisp as 50 minutes, that's how I love it, and then we'll go in for Q&As. The first perspective obviously is that all of you are aged and experienced much more than I can deem fit to be before you. But I have a small share of expertise and experience basis, the journey that life has taken me so far, which I'm here to share. So my first perspective is, am I here to preach? Definitely no. All of you are much more capable and experienced and reliable when it comes to that. You've transformed the thousands of lives of students over the years. So I'm not here to do that duty which you are all an experts on. For me, according to me, why am I here spending an hour with all of you is that it's just to play. It's just to have some fun. It's just to communicate a message in a medium with which I believe I'm extremely comfortable, which is play, which is a medium of teaching which I have inculcated, I have tried to learn over the years, which I believe as a student I thought I had great amount of fun. The biggest learning that I have got in my masters, in my work experience, etc. is from the experiments that my predecessors have allowed me to play with. Is the open chart that they have given me to draw, is the canvas that they have given me to paint. The larger the canvas, the bigger are the dreams, etc. So I'm here to try and play in my own way, and playing comes with its own set of rules and regulations too. So all of us can have a lot of fun. Nobody expects that playing is not an essential part of any serious seminar, etc. So let's keep the seriousness part aside and let's just concentrate on the fun that we can have. So I would involve all of you as much as I am going to get involved in this session as well. So I'm sure the tea must have woken you up. If not, I will do my bit to try and wake all of you up in the next few minutes definitely. And get ready for some quick fire questioning, get ready for some good amount of fun and frolic and some healthy laughter, because I believe that's the medium of studies that I follow and I inculcate to my students as well. So that's the first practice. The second one, it's a different, people call it hatke. Hatke, the word is all about difference. And when you say innovation, when you say out of the box, it doesn't mean that doing different things. It means doing some things little differently. Okay, and that difference is that's made a career out of me. When I say that I had employee engagement and strategic HR, it's all about the hatke ideas. It's all about the out of the box thoughts and creativities that we have tried to inculcate on many thousands to make their day-to-day life in a corporate far more exciting. So I'll run you through some real-life case studies on how this is implemented and how this has changed the lives of many, and how this education process of trying to make work a lot more fun process amongst everybody has transformed wonders for us as an organization. So that background also I will set. And I'm of course not here to try and put up 20 slides of what is out of the box, how to think, what are the process, what is the left brain doing here and what's the right brain doing, etc. Google is much more a better teacher than that. But I will do it in my own way where I think so I can leave a small message with all of you. People say, I am also a big preacher that people say that movies communicate and educate us a lot more. She said that I like watching movies, but that is little more on the serious front. Not many believe that when I say that we have a group of people whom we watch at least 3/4 of a movie a day. It sounds too odd and it sounds too tough, but try and make it as a living. It's so exciting. Be it across genres, Japanese, Korean, English, Malayalam, Kannada, whatever. But then there's a lot of thoughts, and so we handle a session in a particular college where we teach movies, we teach the management philosophies that movies have taught us for about a few hours. So it's pretty exceptional. So that's the manage of teaching. So I'm setting the context very right. Considering the fact of all these stories that I have told you, my next slide takes a lot of relevance, and I'm sure it's wrong to try and portray this slide before some experienced and expertise teachers from different parts of the country, but still I take the guts to try and tell you that I was born intelligent, but education in the process ruined me at times. So it's with a lot of guts that I'm trying to tell you. It's just that we let our education interfere, we let our studies interfere with our education a lot more. Education ruined us in the sense the channel of education that we try to portray for students is pretty narrow in terms of bookish knowledge, etc. But that's why the management schools today are transforming into a lot more out of the classroom studies, which was about 5% of a person's time. Assuming a student spends about 50 hours in a management classroom, 5%, which is about 2.5 hours, was supposed to be spent outside the classroom in some social work, in some relevant on-field job and all that stuff. Today, that's risen up to 25%, 5 times more. The need, and in some institutes where I teach and all that stuff, we have a 50-50 ratio. Students spend more time outside trying to learn the roots of the day-to-day life. They try out, test out ideas and all that stuff. That's the biggest learning that comes from, alright? And the channelized education, so I'm not here to preach saying this is wrong and that is right, but I'm saying my philosophy is more the out of the box, the out of the classroom, the out of the notebooks kind of philosophy. Notebooks obviously are very, very essential. They teach us what the basics are, but beyond that is what I'm trying to look at. That's my first perspective. Now let's get to the point of action, which is about the core centric of our topic of presentation, out of the box. All of us will have different perspective of what out of the box is, etc. So according to me, based on my experience and expertise so far, there are 4 categories which will definitely have an out of the box relevance to it. And this completely is my philosophy. This completely is my experience. So you can consider that monkey to be me, trying to tell you that what according to me have been the out of the box principles that have helped me. And any out of the box idea that I have implemented in my life has resulted in these 4. Okay. The first of the perspective is out of your comfort zone. All right. Whenever you think that there is a meticulous channel that you follow, there's a meticulous curriculum that you follow, there are books, there is a process to do it. So once you break the process, a diversified new idea is born. So you need to break the ordinary to try and extract something out of the ordinary. That's the basic logic I come from. So if you have to crack something out of the ordinary, if you have to crack something out of the box, you first have to step outside your box. Your box is the comfort zone that you have drawn around yourself. Let's take teaching for example, be it the economics syllabus that we teach, or be it the management syllabus, or the marketing syllabus, or the HR syllabus that we teach. There are books, there are the Kotlers of the world who advocate a particular philosophy, a particular mechanism, etc. But once we step aside and look at the current day situations, etc., the current day trends and all that stuff, which may not have a Kotler experience in it, that's the real out of the box of trying to teach students something to think beyond. Okay, so I'm not getting to students philosophy a lot more because you have better teaching experience. I'm getting to a corporate philosophy as well, where we come from having 28,000 employees in different parts of the world who are into software coding, developing, competing with customers, sales jobs, quality, IT, IS, infrastructure, etc. They have a meticulous channel. Software engineers are supposed to be a lot more serious people doing coding and some real-time high funda stuff on the net. But then they're supposed to be seriously thinking and all that stuff. But the path-breaking solutions, the real big innovations in corporate India, be it the latest iPhone 5, etc., was born out of when somebody actually thought out of the box, when somebody actually stepped outside their box, outside their comfort zone. When you have a meticulous channel of doing things, it helps to step aside that channel and think for a while saying, how can I do this little differently? So it's very, very essential we take a minute to try and review the path that we are going through on a day-to-day basis, be it teaching, be it working, be it singing, be it anything else, and try and think how can we do this particular element little differently. So that's where stepping out of your comfort zone matters. Not thinking straight. This is, I've already explained to you about the Hatke process, where you don't think like a normal person thinking who's doing that job. Step aside as an audience. So I do a lot of lecturing, I do a lot of hosting and all that stuff. How many times do we, the real learning or the real innovation I can bring to my profile is when I watch my videos, when I watch my hosting videos or singing videos and step aside and think as an audience, saying what as an audience I would like to see there. If you don't consider that perspective, if you just say that, okay, it's a serious function, I have to come seriously dressed in a suit, talk a little bit and then go back, then that's the job that you do as an MC or a host or as a singer. But what if you step aside and think of cracking something which is out of the ordinary, for which you need to think not the straight serious route, but little Hatke. Unconventional yet attractive. I have a very interesting example. I'm sure all of you, rather most of you would be following cricket at some stage or the other. But something that we must never forget is the T20 World Cup is happening now. All of us remember that India once won the T20 World Cup? All of us remember? Alright, so do you remember whom we played in the finals? Pakistan? Great. So people are waking up. So what happened in the last over? Obviously, I'm a great philosopher or a follower of Mahendra Singh Dhoni's as well as a management philosophy of trying to man resources and the way he manages pressure, stress. We have some close contacts with the professional body that manages Dhoni. So we get a lot of tips and taunts. We send in a lot of questions to try and get it answered in our own way. So there's a lot of subjective learning from there. So one of the things that we thought of, so when we went inside the mind of the captain to try and read it in a Q&A session that we had with him itself, is this. That's why I propagate this thought, saying in the last over of that match, Pakistan needed about 12 runs to win or something like that. There was a batsman called Misbah-ul-Haq who was batting brilliantly, who was taking the game away, and Dhoni had 1 over to go, and he had Harbhajan Singh, who was India's and the world's most successful spinner and the best T20 specialist ever. So he had 1 over to go of Harbhajan. He thought unconventional. He went outside his comfort zone. His comfort zone was a regular time-tested bowler. He went outside. He didn't think straight because the batsman was thinking that it's going to be Harbhajan, an off-spinner, and this is how I'm going to play and all that stuff. He went aside, picked a rookie called Joginder Sharma, who's never been heard of and never was heard of after the World Cup. But he went to him, gave him the ball, and he said, "Come on, boy, go there and have a fun time." It could have gone either ways. He was just 1 ball away from losing the World Cup for India. But what happened was that fellow's fate, that he got out, he got caught and all that stuff. But what that material, big risks give you big recognitions, that we know that philosophy. But it was unconventional. Nobody believed that thought was feasible. I'm telling you a day-to-day fact that we have seen on television. Nobody thought that is going to be. Even in the World Cup finals last year, when Yuvraj Singh was the best player of the tournament.
Last match when Harbhajan Singh has been dropped.
So that was expected because England were always sluggish against spin and there was a slow pitch. Today also he's going to play, so we know that for sure. So it was unconventional, the idea of giving the ball in the last over to him. It was not thinking straight. He surprised the opponent by doing it. Every time in whenever situations we are in, we might just have to put and say that I'm doing something this way. What does it take to move aside and try and think something? What happens when all these three fall into place? It results in the fourth point, which is path breaking. Alright, you saw the result that happened, you saw the result of the World Cup, you saw both the World Cups results, etc, etc. That's a very favorite example, you need to try and move away from the conventional to try and surprise your audience, okay. For example, another favorite movie example of mine is of the great superstar Amitabh Bachchan himself. All of us would have followed movies and all that stuff. You know that he's a superstar, you know the quality of roles he does, the larger than life roles and all that stuff. But then for a superstar like that in last year, the biggest hit of his lifetime and the most toughest role that he's ever essayed in about 50 years of cinematic brilliance came a couple of years back in a movie called Pa. Alright, when it was completely a non-Amitabh Bachchan who actually came on screen and completely floored us. It was outside his comfort zone. He had to act like a 11-year-old boy with paralysis who's aging much more faster than he's supposed to do. And his son acted as his father. It was unconventional, it was not thinking straight, and a superstar like him grew up to that. Obviously, full credit to the director Balki. But then, what resulted was one of his biggest hits of his all time and most toughest role that he could have ever done. So the history speaks for itself. But I'm talking to you about day-to-day examples, which is what that I love talking about, which gives you an example of all these things. The movie itself was a great brilliance of out-of-the-box thinking. How can a 70-year-old man come here and act like a 12-year-old? It was made feasible, it was realistic, and it was brilliance. It results in all this, and the result was path-breaking. Few points that I have in mind whenever I do something. Later on in the slides, I'm going to try and explain to you some of the ideas that I work and I have conceived, which has resulted in something path-breaking in its own way, which will help you examine saying what helped me to go beyond all these points to crack those thoughts. Alright, so I'm going to give you a quick example. This is of course few videos, and I love playing my videos to try and show you a bit of this. You'll see all of this, okay, in the videos that I'm going to play. I'm going to play a series of 1-minute videos, 3 videos in sense, of a particular campaign, okay. So whenever I teach marketing and branding and advertisements, these are things that I love to use, and you will love it as well because these are day-to-day advertisements that none of us would have seen on television because this was never aired in India. It was a campaign that was launched in Japan, where the number 1 and number 2 chewing gum brand was Wrigley's and another Japanese brand, okay. So there was another brand which has been there for ages and ages, which is possibly the earliest of chewing gums that all of us that have had in life, or at least me, which actually wanted to recapture that market. So it didn't think straight, okay. This was launched in the late 80s, early 90s. It didn't think straight. It thought hatke. It was I think the mid 90s, sorry. So it went hatke. It went outside the comfort zone, took the product away from the feature and wanted people to recollect the ad and have a jolly good time so that they recollect that what has happened. And then this is what was evolved. I'll tell you the result that was path-breaking later. a very unconventional way of trying to portray such kind of creative geniuses. Now the volume is on. Let me just see that. Hello, that is chewing gum. You'll get it when I play the second ad before you, where the person is so fast chewing the chewing gum that they're trying to look at a hatke way of trying to portray it. He is chewing it. So the idea was outside their comfort zone. It had got nothing to do with the product but with the chewing mechanism. They just stopped that and stitched a series of creative advertisements which skyrocketed to them to the #1 chewing gum brand for about 8 years continuously in Japan. So that's the background of such kind of creative visual. So the result was path-breaking in its own sense. These are examples which we do not find here. So I thought it was essential for us to communicate this. It's time to think outside our box. So the perspective that the first slide leads us is to try and determine. I told you, all of us have a box that we go along with. Okay, and out of the box results only when we slightly step aside and try and think that in what manner can I actually do this little differently. It's not about trying to do different things in the path of work, but trying to do those things in a little different manner. There are definitely 5 ways of doing the things that you're currently doing in a better way. We just don't take the time to try and evaluate once we crack the first manner of doing it. Let's get cracking. So I now come to a point where I'm going to quiz you and try and get some questions going. The best way to try and get is ask you questions and get answers, which will be even more interesting. I'm going to ask you a list of questions. Each question has a logical yet insensible answer attached to it. Each answer will bring a smile or a small grin to some of your faces, but there is a small, we use it extensively in management games that we play to try and make people think radically different. So the perspective I want you to set before starting this small 4-5 quizzes is, by the time I come to the last question, all of you would have been experts in this. So the perspective is, think little differently, think little hatke. Go out of the ordinary and think little hatke, okay? And I'm going to play a lot of games in the next 20 minutes. So the standard rules when you play with me is, if you know the answer, hand up, stand up. I will ask you. Do not shout the answer. Remember the message that we communicate to the students. So the same message I am asking you. Put your hand up and I will ask you if you know the answer. Right? Let's play. Alright, the first question I'm going to ask you is pretty easy. If it took 8 men 10 hours to build a wall, how long would it take 4 men to build it? Put your hand up if you know the answer. Do not shout. Do not shout. I'm going to go with the lady there, back. Madam. Yeah, you.
5 hours.
Madam, 5 hours?
Why build the building when it's already built?
Precisely, 5 hours is maybe right in a logical math sense, but why should other men build it if the building is already built? Yeah, precisely. So that's the answer that I was coming to. That's out of the box. Why build the building? It's already been built in the first instance. Thank you, madam. Well done. So I know not to ask you any more questions.
That was Raju Agrawal's recently. I heard it in
Just yesterday we had this.
No, yesterday he repeated. In fact, it was Agrawal.
Oh, she's actually copying it from somewhere, so there's no use. So let me try the other questions.
Raju Srivastava.
So let me just go ahead and see the other questions. If at all more people answer, I'll quickly move. In fact, I have no dearth of games. I have enough and more till you get bored. How can you lift an elephant with one hand? Hand up, anybody?
Try to repeat up like this.
No, so a real big giant elephant, which is like the real big elephant that you can think of. Gentleman there at the end. With the help of a crane? No, where will the hand come? Your one hand is in the crane? No crane and all, just you and the elephant are there. Madam, no, one second, one at a time. No, one at a time. Don't behave like students.
The elephant doesn't have a hand.
Precisely, there is no elephant with one hand. If you can read the question once again, how can you lift an elephant with one hand? And I'm sorry, there are no elephants in the world with one hand. That's a different way of trying to look at it, ladies and gentlemen. I just want you to try and move aside your normal conventional route and try and look at it a little differently. Alright, next question everybody. How can a man go 8 days without sleep? You've already answered one. Madam in the end. Madam in the end, no.
Why do you want to sleep in the day?
Precisely, all men usually sleep at night. So that's a different way of trying to look at it. Well done, you're becoming experts. If you throw a red stone into the blue sea, what will it become? Gentlemen here? Wet. Precisely, it will just become wet. And maybe your last one, what can you never eat for breakfast?
Lunch.
The moderator herself breaks the rules. You're just supposed to put your hand up. The answer is lunch. Lunch or dinner also, or supper, so whatever. So, okay.
Lunch everybody, so hatka is dinner.
Alright, so that was an icebreaker, as you could call it, just to get you all talking, just to get your hand up and all this stuff, set the rules. I'm going to play a lot more, but I thought I'll just start making you think a little differently. Bay of Bengal is in which state?
Liquid state.
All of us know the answer? All of us are shouting it out. Okay, teachers, come on, get up. It's in liquid state, obviously. Now, get to some serious talking as well. So, in between, I'm bound to talk a little seriously. Out of the box, it needn't seem little alien to all of you, right? What is out of the box? I already told that monkey example, etc. But what is out of the box? Does it pertain only to advertisement professionals? Does it pertain to creative people? I'm a serious economics lecturer. How can I think out of the box? I teach statistics and math. What can remain out of the box in that, etc. My favorite, when I started reading about and trying to write, the process of writing a book on out of the box, etc. So when I started framing that up, etc., I started thinking that what could be the biggest example of out of the box thinking that the world has ever seen. Put your thoughts randomly. Try and tell me, according to you, I will tell you my example as well soon, but then let's get talking. What could be the biggest example of out of the box the world has ever seen? An out of the box idea. It needn't be a product idea. Don't control yourself. Think why. Put your hand up, madam. Can't see who's speaking. Can't hear you, madam. Anybody else? Lady in the last? Alright. Maybe. Anybody else? The biggest idea the world has ever seen out of the box. Sir, there?
Accept everything is right.
Accept?
Everything is right.
No, I'm talking about a particular concrete stuff. I'm not talking about philosophies, I'm talking about a particular concrete
All
stuff.
the universities, schools and colleges got closed.
No, I'm saying it's an idea that's already happened.
Going to the moon, is it?
Going to the moon, is it out of the box? It was just a normal scientific process. It had to happen someday. Newton's discovery. Is it the biggest the world has ever seen?
Tamil Nadu is going to have 24 hours electricity.
That's not out of the box, madam. That's a dream. You know, some people are extremely thankful for that situation. I read an article in Tamil yesterday by a very famous writer, which actually had a brief note in the bottom which said that thank you so much for this fantastic power situation. Our business has doubled 200%. Yours faithfully, Candle Manufacturers Association. A lot of jokes circling around that. There are people who are saying that Tamil Nadu is a more romantic state. Do you know that? Because most couples have candlelit dinners in the night.
Can you just frame a question a little? I mean, we can always say nano, making of a nano.
Say it. I just want you to say it. Look at an out-of-the-box idea.
1 lakh car for
1 lakh car was, but something much more bigger the world has ever seen. I know you're just
something
pressing.
on those lines. I was asking, what is
It's not a product. It needn't be a product.
Needn't be.
It needn't be a product. Internet maybe? Out of the box? Yes, it was out of the box, I agree. But all your answers are right. There's no answer that I have that you're not saying. All yours are absolutely right. But according to maybe you'll agree with my answer as well.
The population of the world.
Maybe. Is there something out of the
What
box?
has never seen earlier.
What's the question? Can you repeat?
Facebook, yeah, something much more bigger according to me than Facebook. The biggest out-of-the-box idea according to me the world has ever seen. I'll give you my answer. Because all your answers are right. I go with something similar to what the first lady said. Because according to me, if you study it closely, so I've done a little bit of extensive research on this gentleman too. The biggest idea for me, which I have been fascinated, is our great Indian freedom struggle. The way a gentleman called Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi actually fought out and got our way of freedom was something extraordinary, which is completely out of the box. Completely out of the box. He thought hatke. He moved out of everybody's comfort zone. When the entire world was fighting the war with arms and ammunitions, this fellow thought out of the box, fellow meaning the great Gandhiji, thought out of the box, trying to fight it with ahimsa. Don't you believe that it is something out of the ordinary? Don't you believe that it was out of the box? For me, it's amazing. So I've read few books which includes a book that has been banned by everybody, which is a book written by Nathuram Godse called May It Please Your Honor. It's never in circulation. It's a version of the person who actually executed Gandhi, and in that also the great words that Nathuram actually says about the great Gandhiji is about the way he conceived this whole idea of ahimsa, which was brilliant, fantastic, and his reason for killing might be something different. But the book talks about this in a very significant manner, and got inspired from that as well. So according to me, the entire philosophy of Quit India, Swadeshi, Salt March, everything that you look at, there is a lot of out-of-the-box philosophy that is attached with it, where you play around with somebody's patience and try and tackle it differently instead of having arms and ammunitions. To me, that was a big eye-opener in terms of trying to crack, saying when that can happen at that level, it can be replicated too. When we started to study the great Anna Hazare movement and all that stuff, there are a lot of pros and cons attached to it, which was done little wrongly, which we had a lot of discussions and deliberations on, which also brought about this whole out-of-the-box philosophy too. But I'm setting a context to you that however serious, the bottom line that I'm setting is however serious our roles could be, our day-to-day lives could be, there is a great philosophy where you have to set aside and look at that a little differently. There is an out of the box, there is a particular way of trying to do it a lot differently. It's just time that we actually move aside and look at it. It's just viewing the problem a little differently. How many of us view our day-to-day lives a little differently? I'm reminded of the example where a couple of friends went into a crockery shop to buy a glass to have lassi, alright, these transparent glasses. You see in crockery shops all the glasses are kept upside down, right? So they took the glass and they saw it, and I said, one fellow commented saying, oh my god, the top is closed, how will I pour the lassi inside? The other fellow remarked, even if you drill a hole, the bottom is open, everything will fall down. So most of us actually look at it very rigidly, saying my job is extremely rigid and there is no way I can actually crack this whole mechanism of trying to do it a little differently. It's just a way that you need to just tilt it aside, take a pause, spend a little amount of time. In fact, in a corporate like us, every process, every delivery process, we spend 3 hours every quarter with 150 people from every delivery, just talking inside a conference room, just talking, saying, how can I do the last 3 months in a little different manner and bring in 5 principles that's going to make it work a little differently. It's transformed wonders. What clients expect from us, from a software company, is not to just do the process that they're giving us, but to go back to the client and tell, how can you do it a little differently? That's where the moolah is. Okay, so I'm going from being preachy to a little bit to try and talk about old facts, etc. To talk about recent trends. That's my bit of history that I've created for myself, which I can probably boast about. So I'm going to talk about real life corporate scenarios where out of the box and innovation has actually transformed the lives of many. Alright, all of us are in the business of transforming lives. We all do it for students rather, and I do it for a bunch of 28,000 employees with their families. And we've been considerably successful. That's what the measurement criteria that we've used makes us believe that we've made a significant difference in the lives of many thousands. So this is the background to it. Where obviously Madam explained to me that I work for a company called iGate. We are a software company just like the Wipros and the TCS and the Infosys of the world. We have about 28,000 employees globally. And just like every other software company, we also are in the process of trying to keep employees happy. The more happier your employees are, the better is your brand name. They stick to you for a longer time. The stickiness to the brand is a lot more. The brand is known externally to be a very, very wonderful company to work for. Everything, right? So it starts from there. How do you treat your employees, etc. Just like any sale business, if you don't treat your customer better, somebody else will. So for us, 28,000 employees are our customers, and I'm in the process of trying to treat them like kings and queens. So we started this 6 years back, and we said, let's transform the way employees are having an experience inside the company, which will have a direct correlation to iGate as a software company being ranked as one of the best employees in this country time and again. That's how you do a branding process. So I've been fortunate to lead this whole paradigm shift. And if you take any brand, for example, every brand goes through an evolution process of trying to get closer to its customer. You take any brand like, for example, Nokia cell phones. 8-9 years back, how many of us believed that we will own a Nokia cell phone? Not many. Today, every household has got at least 2. You take brands like Skoda, McDonald's, KFC, Volkswagen. fan use. These are brands that we've never heard of in life, which has suddenly opened doors and come to our living rooms all of a sudden. Why is that? Because the brand wants to get closer to its target audience, whoever it could be. A software brand is no different. We also want to get closer to our target audience, and we do steps to try and make them feel happy and excited. So we started this. So one of the out-of-the-box idea we started roughly about 6 years back. Madam mentioned about it. Is a concept called everybody believes. All of you know, and I started my pitch that way.